this debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live.
This is why we need independent media.
Mehdi Hasan from MSNBC, states the USA needs Medicare for all. To which I have to say, okay, all right, great. Somebody on corporate media is doing their daily once-a-year segment where they're getting something right. It's a rarity on corporate media where you hear these pundits actually talk about important progressive policies that are popular amongst voters. Not the politicians, but voters. Because when you poll Medicare for all, universal health care towards Republican voters, Democratic voters, independents, Greens, socialists, all of that doesn't matter. Well, turns out Medicare for all is very popular. And here in the United States, to our international audience, we have a thing called medical bankruptcy. And medical bankruptcy is one of the leading causes of homelessness in this country. Not because people are lazy, because they can't pay their medical bills, because our health insurance is tied to our jobs. And when the pandemic hit us, well, a lot of people lost their health insurance. A lot of people got fired or were laid off from their jobs and didn't have their insurance anymore. And we covered on the show numerous times on how people were walking out of hospital with hospitals with a debt of either $100K, $50K in hospital bills because they were being treated with COVID. Again, it's a nightmare situation, but that was during the pandemic. Even before then, my colleague Daniel Lupker have done numerous stories of, regular, hardworking Americans going to jail because they can't pay off their medical bills. Richest country in the world, and we can't take care of our people. Richest country in the world, but we have money for war. And when it came time to do force to vote, when Jimmy Dore, way back in 2021, with Breonna Joy Gray, Dr. Cornel West, Justin Jackson, and so many other heroic individuals, when they stepped up to do that live stream, that big town hall event, to get the quote-unquote 15 progressive members in Congress to do a force to vote, withhold their vote for Nancy, what did our Democratic lawmakers do? And mind you, AOC was part of that group. They did nothing. They just said it was violence. And since then, there's been this huge hope amongst, I guess, the vote blue, no matter who crowd of wait, keep calm, let's keep our powder dry. Wait, stop, we gotta trust the system. Hey, I want to do a little bit of an open choice question, a little democracy in the chat before we play our first video, actually. To our entire audience, and hey, there's no such thing as a wrong answer on this one. So it's a free choice. 100 points, doesn't matter, just fill in the question. What does Medicare for all mean for you? And how would it help improve your life? If you're an American, type it in the comment section below. What would it mean for you? I don't care what your political affiliation is. What does it mean for you? No wrong answer. All right, there we go. So, with that being said, Mehdi Hasan from MSNBC is saying we need Medicare for all. All right, well, let's play this video, Faze.
The coronavirus pandemic has taken a devastating toll on the United States. It has now infected over 86 million Americans and claimed more than 1 million lives. There are a number of reasons as to why our country has handled a pandemic so much worse than most other Western countries. Can you pause here for a second?
I want to acknowledge this in the live stream chat. Now, this video will be clipped by our editor, Faze, but this will be in this clip. One of our live stream audience members, Valerie Purcell, who wrote, daughter's brain surgery was $53,000 and insurance denied it. Return the soul back to this country. Hey, vote blue no matter who. You got an answer for this? And the sad truth. And Valerie, I'm so sorry. That's all I can say. I'm so sorry that is happening to you and your family. It shouldn't happen. And they're not alone in this country. There's millions of other families, individuals in the United States that are dealing with that nightmare of a situation. It's unjust, it's not right, it's not fair. Money for war, no money for the people. Wendy Carbello says, freedom to switch jobs. I asked a question in the live stream audience. Freedom to switch jobs without losing coverage. No more fear of medical bills. Valerie, I'm so sorry that's happening to you and your family. And Valerie also wrote in, thank you, everyone. Her doctor is appealing while she heals. I hope that something good happens. I truly do. Richest country in the world, we can't take care of our people. If you can, FaZe, let's continue on with the rest of the video. I'm so sorry.
Including poor presidential leadership during the Trump era, the efforts of anti-vaxxer Republican governors, and media misinformation from the likes of Fox and Facebook. But we also need to talk about the elephant in the room: universal health care, or our lack of universal health care. Compared to other large, high-income countries, the US had the highest death rate per capita from the virus, and it's also the only one among such countries without universal health care. And the result of that? Well, a new study released this week found that if we had a single-payer healthcare system in this country, if everyone had free universal healthcare like they do in every other Western country, we could have saved more than $100 billion. And more importantly, we could have saved more than 300,000 American lives. 300,000. How can that be? Well, here in America, a lot of people's health insurance is tied to their employment. When the pandemic hit, millions lost their jobs and their insurance. That didn't happen in other countries. As for those Americans who still had health insurance through an employer, the fear of losing that insurance during a pandemic likely caused them to still go to work even when they didn't feel well. These factors both delayed diagnosis and exacerbated transmission of the virus. But in addition to preventing illness and death, a universal healthcare system could also have cut our costs. The US spends almost twice as much on healthcare per capita as other wealthy countries, but spends that money very inefficiently. Researchers estimate that the US could actually save more than $400 billion with a single-payer universal plan during a non-pandemic year. The lead author of this new study, a professor at Yale, told The Guardian, quote, "Universal single-payer healthcare is both fiscally responsible and morally imperative for the US. In fact, our
right
country's fragmented..."
Now, it's fiscally responsible. Other countries have figured it out. Canada, members of the European Union, countries across the world. The United States isn't even in the top 10 in regards towards quality healthcare for its citizens. We're not in the top 10. It's downright pathetic. Medical bankruptcy, medical debt. Your insurance is tied to your job. Whatever you do, don't get fired. Keep on staying in the wagey cagey, otherwise you're done for. Are you not angry? Because you should be. And all these people who were upset with the movements way back in 2021, where Force the Vote and March for Medicare for All were happening, there was such a pushback. Don't criticize the Democrats. Don't criticize the system. We got to keep our powder dry. We got to trust the system. How's trusting the system going for you so far? You know, I'm still upset with even hearing what happened to Valerie and her daughter. And again, just to remind all of you, they're not the only ones in the United States. I hope her daughter's doctor is able to appeal that decision because the insurance company's not making it done. They're not going to do it. So, what's the point of voting Democrat when they never follow through with anything? Now, by the way, just to put a little salt in the wound, just to get everyone just a little bit angrier in the audience, because you should be angry. You should not be calm. You should be furious. You have every right to be angry. So here's the salt in the wound. Your favorite Democratic and Republican lawmakers in the United States Senate and House have gold-plated health care, a six-figure salary, and other wonderful social benefits too. They're okay. You're not. They get to have quality health care, and they do this to you and say, no, you're not allowed to have it. How many Americans right now are looking at the medical bills and wondering how they're going to pay it off? How many Americans right now across this country are probably right now in a hospital wondering, can we pay off the medical bill? Will we lose everything? Will this one bad day destroy us all? Destroy my family? You know, maybe I'm looking at this at a simple mindset, but when you're sick, you get help at the hospital and you get better. But yet we cover these stories here at Hard Lens Media where people refuse to go to the hospital because they don't have the money. And mind you, it will vary from state to state, which is a little fact that I'm going to drop on all of you. Getting in an ambulance, I think at the bare minimum, $100 a block. There are stories that we cover here at Hard Lens Media where people had to call an Uber or a Lyft because they couldn't afford the extravagant cost of going inside an ambulance. Are you angry? Because you should be. Are you furious? You should be. And if you're not, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I don't care what part of the country you live in. I don't care if you live in a red state or a blue state. I don't care who you vote for. Well, I kind of do, because if you vote Democrat or Republican, you actually believe those politicians, you're brainwashed. The Republican Party and Democratic Party don't respect you. Yet here we have on mainstream media, Mehdi Hasan saying, oh, we should have Medicare for all. Let's play the rest of the video.
And privatized healthcare system is also impacting our vaccination efforts. Right now, the United States has one of the lowest COVID vaccination rates among Western countries. And that's not just because of vaccine misinformation on the right. 1 in 4 Americans don't have a primary care doctor. And yet the personal relationship between doctors and patients has proved vital in fighting vaccine hesitancy in other countries. Look, the data suggests there's a 50-50 chance of another COVID-like pandemic, or even one that is more deadly over the next 25 years. So in the coming weeks, Biden administration officials are expected to release a new defense strategy against the next pandemic. And this new study makes clear that the adoption of universal healthcare should be fundamental to any plan for pandemic preparedness. So it's time to stop treating universal healthcare or single payer or Medicare for all as some sort of fringe left-wing issue, some political hobby horse for Bernie Sanders and the squad. No, it's a public health issue. It's a policy being pushed by some of the top scientific researchers in America. And frankly, it's a no-brainer. If the United States wants to be ready for the next pandemic, we need to make sure everyone in America has health care. No ifs, no buts, no exceptions.
Okay. That was interesting that he was saying that. Now, let's look at everything from 2016 up until now, from 2022. And we're going to have another democracy in the chat, actually. Because what I remember from outlets like the Washington Post, New York Times, Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC, CNN, we can't do Medicare for all. It's not pragmatic. We can't do Medicare for all. It just can't be done. Oh, the progressives, Bernie Sanders, these are just wild ideas. It just can't be done. There were many members in the Democratic establishment who went on corporate media. It wasn't just Fox News. It was the entire corporate media establishment that was telling you, the American people, we can't have Medicare for all. We can't take care of our citizens. No, everyone's going to go into medical bankruptcy. We had people like Rahm Emanuel say people love their health insurance. Hey, folks. Type 1, if you remember, from 2016 all the way up until 2022, right now, how corporate media was smearing Medicare for all and how it wasn't a feasible, pragmatic idea. Type 2, if you're just learning about this now, like, oh my goodness, I never knew. So we're going to rewind back the clocks to 2019, just before the dreadful year of 2020. That's right. I'm talking about one of the debates where Bernie, Biden, and Warren were talking about Medicare for all. There's all this hope onto Biden that somehow he's going to do something. Remember, Joe Biden doesn't care about Medicare for all. Joe Biden doesn't care about progressive policies. I mean, he's never followed through with anything. This is the architect this is one of the many architects to the neoliberal nightmare that we're in. Let's play this video.
Vice President Biden, I'd like to bring you in. You spent an awful lot of time 10 years ago trying to pass a bill far less ambitious than what Senator Sanders is talking about here. Is he being realistic?
I don't think it is realistic, but let me explain why. I introduced a plan to build on Obamacare. Remind everybody, 20 million people got insurance, didn't have it before. All people with pre-existing conditions are able to be covered. I could go on. We didn't get all that we wanted. But now that it's been exposed, that taking it away has such dire consequences, I've added to the Obamacare plan the Biden initiative, which is a public option, Medicare, if you want to have Medicare, for reducing significantly the price of drugs, deductibles, et cetera, by underwriting the plan to a tune of about $750 billion, and making sure that we're able to cover everyone who is, in fact, able to be covered. Hey, put your hand down for a second, Bernie, okay?
Just waving to you, Joe.
I know.
Let's pause for a second.
So look.
Remember, that was Bernie Sanders' good friend, Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders. Hey, that's your friend, your buddy, your pal. Let's play the rest of it.
It covers everybody. It's realistic. And most importantly, it lets you choose what you want. Here, you have 160 million people who negotiated their health care plans with their employer, like many of you have. You may or may not like it. If you don't like it, you can move into the public option that I propose in my plan. But if you like it, you shouldn't have Washington dictating to you. You cannot keep the plan you have.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Senator Sanders, 45 seconds to respond.
Under Joe's plan, essentially, we retain the status quo.
That's not true.
No,
it is exactly true. And thank you. And by the way, Joe, under your plan, you asked me how we're going to pay for it. Under your plan, I'll tell you how we're paying for it right now. The average worker in America, their family makes $60,000 a year. That family is now paying $12,000 a year for health care, 20% of their income. Under Medicare for All, that family will be paying $1,200 a year, because we're eliminating the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies and ending this Byzantine and complex administration of thousands of separate health care plans.
Senator Klobuchar, I'm going to come to you.
My name was mentioned.
Yes, I'm going to come to you, but 45 seconds. 45 seconds for Vice President Biden. I'm the only guy that's not
interrupted here, all right? I'm going to interrupt now. It costs $30 trillion. Let's get that straight. $30 trillion over 10 years. Some say it costs $20 trillion. Some say it costs $40. The idea that you're going to be able to save that person making $60,000 a year on Medicare for All is absolutely preposterous. 16% of the American public.
Now, again, to Mehdi Hasan's point, hey, that was a great segment that he did in the video that we played earlier. But all of corporate media was on this bandwagon of saying Medicare for All is a bad idea. It's not pragmatic. It can't be done. Remember, Joe Biden was vice president under Barack Obama, and the Democrats had a supermajority. They could have done a public option. I know, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, Romney Care, which is what it really is. It could have been more. They could have done things, but they didn't. And after this debate, did anything fundamentally change? I mean, nothing fundamentally changed. Our healthcare system is still deplorable. Our healthcare system is still downright disgusting. And this is the person, Biden, who's saying Medicare for All is a bad idea. AOC said he exceeded expectations. Bernie calls him his good friend. You have so many people saying we could just push Biden to the left, keep our powder dry. And yet, here's the thing. Nothing has changed. The Biden-Harris administration are still continuing on many of Trump's foreign and domestic policies. They're still going along with the corporate neoliberal narrative. So, in many ways, keeping our powder dry and all that other stuff, challenging this Democratic administration, how's that going for us? Nothing is changing, and people are still dying. Richest country in the world. Hey, Bernie, brilliant idea of just bowing out and letting your good friend Joe just run things. Did you get anything in return? Oh, right, you got nothing. Let's play the rest of the video.
Is on Medicare now, and everybody has a tax taken out of their paycheck now. Tell me, you're going to add 84% more, and there's not going to be higher taxes? At least before he was honest about it.
Oh, Joe.
It's going to increase personal taxes. They're going to be...
That's right. We are going to increase personal taxes. Okay. But we're eliminating premiums. We're eliminating co-payments. We're eliminating deductibles. We're eliminating all out-of-pocket expenses. And no family in America will spend more than $200 a year on prescription drugs.
Senator Klobuchar.
Our plan will save the average worker far more.
Senator Klobuchar, we'd like to hear from you.
All right. want to read just a few things to close the segment out. David Altcalt writes in here, I went into bankruptcy in 2009 because of medical bills after 30 years as a working adult without health insurance. People are asking, what happened to that Bernie Sanders? Miguel H. asks, what happened to this Bernie Sanders? What happened to this Bernie Sanders? Where is he at? Look, I don't need mainstream media to tell me that we need Medicare for all. This is a fact that we've been screaming about for decades on end. But we haven't got it. And many good people are suffering and dying. We need to break away from the system that we are in. If we don't fight for a better future now, more good people will pass away. We owe it to ourselves, the future generations, and those that are not with us now to continue to raise the ruckus, to continue to protest and form organizations that are not connected to that swamp bubble in Washington, D.C. None of those politicians are going to come there into your neighborhood and help you out. They're not going to fight for Medicare for all. They're not good at being leaders. It's up to the people to lead. And when the people lead, that's when the leaders follow. We don't owe these politicians anything because they haven't given us anything. For those who are not with us now, we must fight for them. No more. No more.